Alright, so in this video we're checking out the new AG01 mini CNC gimbals from Radiomaster, and they also sent along some new stick ends to try out. So we got 3 of each, and so there's the full-size one for the TX16S over there for those gimbals, or they have the mini-sized ones for the Zorro and the TX12, and they come in 3 colors, black, blue, and red. They also sent along the case for the Zorro. So this is their hard case, and here's my Zorro in here. You got a space here for your extra batteries, which is nice, the little 350s. And then the Zorro does fit in here no problem with the module in the back. And then you can see there's a little space here if you have like one of those crossfire antennas or whatever. But yeah, no problem in here. Okay, so here's what the stick ends look like. And there's 2 pieces. There's like this sort of spiky ends on the sides. I guess it'll help you grip if you're a thumber, or I guess if you're a pincher, if you pinch the stick on the end over here, and then you have these pretty sharp spikes on the top for those of you guys that are thumbers. But it's actually not bad if you put your whole thumb in here. You put a lot of pressure in here. It doesn't really hurt or anything. It does a pretty good grip. But if you I guess if you grab it kind of on the edge like this, you can see it's pulling my skin up. So I guess it could scratch you if you're just getting on the edge here, but it's pretty sharp. And here's what it looks like on the TX16S. This is the Mark II. Yeah, feels pretty good. It's a little bit sharper than the standard stick. And this is height adjustable, of course. I think it's gonna probably, for those of you guys that pinch, I think it's going to be an improvement. I don't pinch, so I'm not qualified to say much about that, but yeah, it definitely has a better grip on the sides compared to the standard stick. The thumb does feel a little bit better, but I don't notice that much of a difference. And here is what the mini one looks like compared to the full-sized one. Basically a miniature-sized version. And I think the screw size is M3 versus M4 on the full size. But if you look at the AG01 mini gimbals, they have that same sort of style with the spikes on the side and also on top. So you can see here, just for comparison, pretty similar. It's probably where it's coming from. So yeah, a little surprised to see silver here, but obviously you can swap them out for different colors if you want. Okay, so now let's take a look at the gimbals. So not much in the box. So it comes in this package with a set of 2, and they are identical. You would think that there would be one of each in terms of like centering throttle versus non-centering throttle, but they have a mechanism here. Right, there's a lever right here. I'm not sure if you can see that on camera right here, with that spring right there. And so it comes as a centering throttle for both. But when you put this in the Zorro, there's going to be a screw that's going to push this lever down. As you can see, then the throttle goes down, and then you have a normal throttle here, and then you're going to have to make an adjustment on this plate here to give it a little bit of friction, and maybe use some of that dampening grease to give you that sort of feel. But yeah, now it's not a centering throttle when you stick it in the Zorro. When you put this in the TX12, it doesn't have that screw that does that, so you have to actually remove this spring if you're going to be using this in the TX12. And if you're wondering if this works in the T-Lite, it does not, unless you do some hacking, because the T-Lite uses a 4-pin connector, and these are 2 3-pin connectors. And in terms of other radios, I don't know. You'll have to investigate that on your own. I'm not going to spend the time tearing apart 10 radios to answer that question. I don't think it is going to fit into a lot of other radios, because the dimensions of the where the screw holes go are very different in a lot of radios. Most of the time, if a gimbal is for a certain manufacturer, it's only going to work for that manufacturer most of the time. If you happen to know that this fits in something else other than the Zorro or the TX12, do let me know down in the comments so that we can pass along that information to people that might be interested. Also in the box, you just get the Allen wrench here and some spare screws and a spare spring. And then you get the little mini manual. But it's going to be pretty straightforward to get this in here. Obviously, you're just going to swap out the existing gimbal. I heard getting into this radio is not too easy. There's a lot of, obviously, you got to take the covers off here in the back, and then you got to take a bunch of screws out. And then there's like a main board you take out, and there's a whole bunch of like plugs and stuff. So yeah, I've already seen a couple of videos. It's not super easy, but it's not terribly difficult either. I would recommend taking a lot of photos as you're going along and just take your time. Honestly, like, I'm feeling these gimbals compared to the ones that come standard in the Zorro. I like the ones that come in the Zorro. Like, this is, the stick tension's a little, I mean, the springs are okay. I like the feel, like when you hit the ends of the sticks, that's a nice solid feel. You wouldn't think this is like your typical plastic gimbal. Like if you compare this to like the Lite Radio 3, this is the standard Lite Radio 3 with these plastic, these are the second generation beta FPV gimbals, you know, potentiometer gimbals, but they're still plastic. So, you know, when you hit the ends, you just feel like it's not it kind of gives a little bit, especially on the pitch axis here. And had that sound. I'm not sure if you can hear that on the microphone, but it just doesn't sound very confidence-inspiring. Granted, it's a $6 gimbal. You know, here's what that looks like here. And then this is the difference between plastic and all metal gimbals, right? So, you know, this plastic, you know, over here on this side where all the mechanisms are happening, when it hits, it's, you know, it's a lighter weight material. It's going to have some flex, whereas on these metal gimbals, yeah, it has that really nice, solid feel. You know, obviously the spring tension can be adjustable and all that, but this just when you hit the stick ends, when you hit the end of the travel, it just feels like it's nice and solid. The metal doesn't give it all. You know, it's it just has some flex, and that's the biggest difference between the plastic gimbals and the metal gimbals is that feel. Now, of course, that's going to cost you a lot. You know, this gimbal here is a potentiometer gimbal, standard plastic gimbal. Don't know how long it's going to last you. Maybe a year. You have to replace it, but $6. This one here is all metal, $60, 10 times as much. Will it last 10 times as long? Hard to say. Maybe, maybe not. I mean, there's no way to know for sure. Obviously, you have to test it out. But it has, you know, that you know, the all metal feel is just more, I think, confidence inspiring for a lot of pilots, especially experienced pilots. For those of you guys that are beginners and you're, you know, using a $40 radio like this with a $6 gimbal in there, will you be able to fly better on these $60 gimbals? It's not going to improve your skill level whatsoever. It's more of once you reach that skill level, you're going to appreciate the difference in the way the stick feels when you're flying. So that's the only way you can explain it. The only way you'll know for sure for yourself is if you fly for many years. And you know, those of you guys that use radios daily on a daily basis, like myself, you'll know the difference. Now, for me, I'm not a gimbal snob. I can fly just fine on these cheaper $6 gimbals. It doesn't really bother me too much. However, that being said, I do appreciate the way these much nicer gimbals feel. Something to note is that because it's metal, it's a lot heavier. It's going to increase the weight of the radio, and my Zorro is already pretty heavy, so yeah, it's going to get heavier. Something to keep in mind if you don't like heavy radios or heavy things in your hands, maybe this is not ideal for you. No. Well, let's see, I'll probably get used to it. But let's go ahead and get this in here, and I'll give you my thoughts on how it feels like when it's flying around.
Eventually.
Alright, so some bad news, guys. I think I have broken my Zorro when I tried to put these gimbals in. Pretty sure it's my fault because this radio has been working perfectly since I got it. And I'm totally bummed because I was using this as my daily driver. And I'm not exactly sure what I did wrong. It is a bit complicated. Well, it's not complicated in terms of getting in here. It's a very densely packed radio inside with a lot of plugs and little things that you might knock off in terms of like components, and I possibly might have done that somewhere on a board. The radio does turn on. I can use it, but randomly powers off when I'm flying. And I have not been able to reproduce it. I don't know how to reproduce it. So all I can figure out is that somehow when I swapped the gimbals, I damaged the radio. Now I was kind of in a hurry, so do take your time. I was kind of in a hurry, and I did happen to forget to plug in a couple things again. I think it was these back momentary switches here. And so I had to open up again and then plug those in and then close everything back up again. But yeah, the problem happened pretty much right away. The first battery that I flew, I thought it was a failsafe, but then when I looked down at my radio, the power was off. I was like, what the heck? And then I turned back on, but then it happened again on another pack a little bit later. So yeah, the radio is not reliable anymore. So as you can see, I took the gimbals back out because I thought, well, maybe it was the gimbals that was causing the power problems. So I pulled everything out, swapped back in the original gimbals, put everything back together, and unfortunately the radio's in that same weird state where it just randomly turns off, which is obviously not good. Anyway, I don't think anyone else has had this problem with this gimbal or this radio. I think I just screwed up somewhere, and I was kind of in a hurry. So take your time when you get inside the radio, and just be patient. I think that's probably where I screwed up. I just probably was going too fast and probably damaged the board or something. That's the only thing I can think of. I looked everything over really carefully, thought, I mean, maybe there was like something that popped off by accident. Everything looks okay. So it's obviously something small and something I can't see. Probably requires more technical skill than I have, but unfortunately can't really tell you how much about how the gimbals feel. They do feel great. I mean, they do feel a little bit nicer than the plastic gimbals here. But honestly, the standard gimbals in the Zorro are excellent. I mean, they are really nice. And I'm really bummed because I don't really feel like I needed to upgrade. I just basically upgraded to do the video, but now I have a dead Zorro, so I'm kind of screwed myself there. But yeah, in terms of the way the metal gimbals feel, they feel like the ones, the full-size ones. You know, I really don't have any complaints about the way these feel, other than the fact they come with silver stick ends. Of course, you can just swap them out for a different color if you want, like I showed you before. I mean, they're nice. They're a little bit heavy, but yeah, because they're all metal, everything's metal. It just feels super solid. But it's not like it's a night and day difference between the plastic gimbals, the standard plastic gimbals on the Zorro versus these all metal gimbals. Now, if you compared these plastic gimbals here compared to the Beta FPV ones, these are way better than the Beta FPV ones, hands down, like night and day difference. I mean, the plastic is still plastic, but the construction or the quality of the plastic they're using in this one is just far superior, in my opinion. But yeah, if you want to, if you got the money and you want to move up to these $60 gimbals, be my guest. Yeah, I don't think you'll have any problems with them. It's just that you have to upgrade the radio yourself, and there is that risk that you might damage the radio like I did, inadvertently, of course. Hopefully they'll come out with a max version of this radio, and I can get that with the CNC gimbals already in them. That's probably what's going to happen, is that they'll probably come out with a max version with like maybe different colors, different colored gimbals, etc. Hoping, keep my fingers crossed, Radiomaster, keep me in the loop on that one, because that's what I would like to get. But yeah, the one I've got now is no good, so sorry. Can't tell you much more about that, but I did want to at least finish the video. This is it's been a couple weeks later. I was kind of debating whether or not I would even bother finishing the video, but I do want to, tell you guys about all the experiences I have, good and bad, and unfortunately not so great this time. But I think it's mostly just my fault, and not really the fault of the radio or the product. So just keep that in mind. Anyway, that'll do it for this one. Talk to you guys later.